Good morning, Keith. Thank you for having me on. I'm Elliot Kallen, and this is such an important topic that we're talking about: depression, stress, anxiety, and my strength is teenagers. And let me start by telling you a story about how we got started here at a Brighter Day charity. You and I both know, and the audience knows, that the epidemic of suicide and stress and depression is at an all-time high. Right now, you can quote the New York Times or the CDC or the state of California. It doesn't really matter where you want to quote. All numbers point to teenager suicide and teenage depression in schools just being out of control. And now with the summer here, in just a few weeks, we're talking about the problem of what teens are going to do this summer and how are they going to feel as the economy begins to slow down and they hit all types of crossroads that are just unpleasant for them. So let me tell you a quick story here. 7 years ago, my 19-year-old son, Jake, a sophomore at the University of Montana, walked or jogged up to the highway and jumped in front of a truck and took his life. You can imagine as a parent how that would make one feel. The next steps were finding him, which we did after a suicide note, going up, claiming the body, identifying the body, and bringing him back to Lafayette, California for burial. Well, Jake overnighted us before he took his own life, a suicide note. And this suicide note of 6 pages had one main paragraph in there. And it was the first paragraph. And it said, "Mom and Dad, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I never would have told you how I felt. I never would have asked for your help. And I never would have taken your help." And that is the essence of depression. And we'll get back to that in a few moments. So we brought him back, and on the way back from Montana for burial, I must have read that suicide note 600 times, but particularly that paragraph over and over and over. And I realized we had to do something to help the other parents out. To all the teens that weren't sharing this ticking time bomb problem with their parents, we wanted to make a difference. So we formed a charity called the Brighter Day Charity. It's a 501c3 charity at www.abrighterday.info to help parents and teens with stress and depression of teens with the goal of stopping teen suicide. And when we first began this charity, we thought, okay, how do we reach the most teens? It's the most difficult group to reach. Do you reach them on TikTok, which really was just getting going then? How do you reach them? They don't reach them the traditional ways, and that's part of the problem there at schools. I've been fairly ineffective across the country at reaching teens about depression and stress. And if they did, they wouldn't be getting 3 hours of homework, which only causes more stress and depression. So we came up with the idea of sports at first because we thought every kid has sports in common. And it didn't take very long to realize that, no, they don't. We live in a world of organized sports only. And if you don't play organized sports, you don't play anything. There's no backyard playing. There's no going down to the basketball court at the junior high or high school and playing in a pickup game. Those games don't exist anymore. And so we began to do music, and we thought, okay, we'll work with music. And we started by doing teen band showcases throughout Northern California, all over the place. Schools, towns were very welcoming to us. They were free to everybody. And at these concerts, which had between 100 and 400 teens at these concerts, some indoors and some outdoors, we created backpacks, these string backpacks that you're familiar with. And Keith, what made this so interesting is that we gave every single student there and their parents a backpack, every teen. And in the first 2 years, we gave out thousands of backpacks. And we knew they were taking them home because we weren't finding them in the garbage can outside or on the floor. They were being taken home. And in these backpacks were resources about 1 inch thick for parents and teens and their friends about stress and depression and how to deal with it. And as we evolved as an organization, we shrunk that from 1 inch down to 1/2 inch, down to 1/4 inch, to what was easier to read and easier to digest, and easier to hand to friends. And that's what we did for a number of years until COVID hit. And if you think stress and depression were high in the 2000s and then in the 2010s, when COVID hit in 2020, it skyrocketed because we asked teens, our family, to lock down, to do a Zoom program at home, to learn with a mask on, to not see their friends, to don't socialize, it's all bad, that every teen is just one sneeze away from killing another teen and their grandparents and so forth and so on. It was horrible what we did. And looking back on it, I hope we study this, never do it again, because it's just horrible socially to teens, even if you believe that we save lives, which is, the medical issues are questionable at best. It's still terrible what we did socially to them. And so we turned that into teen talent showcases with all teens from all walks of life, putting any talent online on YouTube. And we did that. And on our first one, we had 14,000 views. We continue to work on these resources. We felt like, okay, we like the Teen Talent Showcase, but there still has to be a better way to reach teens. And our focus has been in a brighter day, at brighterday.info. The focus that we've gone after now, which is very exciting what we're doing, is to create resources for them and put them online and then get the links out through different social media ways so we can market them. So we now have a teen survival kit online, and that's going out using TikTok. And we've got somebody here who does that program that's going to be doing things just for teens. And we've got a parent survival toolkit, which is everything you ever need to know about stress and depression and all the resources available. And there's so many on the internet besides just us. There are resources after resources after resources. We're one of thousands of resources available out there. We're just having an immediate impact. So fast forward to today, and where we are is we've got these resources and we've got people here that are getting these out into the community for parents to click and download and do great things with, right? And I've got letters on my desk, Keith, from people that have said, thank you for saving my child's life. Thank you for making a difference. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for hitting this head on, even though you had a personal tragedy. Thanks for not hiding behind it. Thanks for not being scared of mental health. And more importantly, which a lot of people don't realize, because I know you do a podcast here on broad mental health and broad anxiety, is that teenage stress and depression is very different from adult stress and depression. They've got different reasons. They deal with it differently. Their brain isn't as developed, especially with boys. There's a reason why boys commit suicide 4-1 over girls, and they're violent in their actions. It's just a very different program out there. So we're making a major difference on what we're doing. So we're bringing that out there. And now, as this charity has grown, we've realized that we want to thank teens and we want to reach more teens into schools or reach more college counselors at schools. So we created a scholarship program. And to date, we've given out 12 college scholarships through our fundraising efforts to teens. And they just simply have to write a 500-word essay on how they've dealt with stress and depression. And most teens receive this. We've gotten, I think, 25 applications, and we've given out half of them, the scholarships to half of them. So it's very interesting what we're doing and how we're doing it. So there's fallout here, and you're going to ask me a question about PTSD, and let me tell you now, speak to the parents if I could. And that is, when you lose a child, you never lose. You never get over it. There's just none. There's no getting over this stuff. It's an empty hole. You move forward, but you don't really get over it. Because the picture of him is my screensaver. There's an 8x10 picture of him next to the television. And a parent watches a movie about children. Guess what happens? He or she is back in that place of feeling horrible about life. And so, as an example, on this past Sunday, I had to go to a funeral for a friend of mine's father who was not unexpectedly passed away at his age and in the 90s and had ill health for a long time. But I stood there as they did the service outside at the cemetery, as they lowered the casket in, as we all put 3 shovelfuls of dirt on the casket. We did everything traditionally that was just the right thing to do. And I saw a picture of my son. And I saw a picture of my son in my mind. And what I did is had to go to the cemetery. And I went to the cemetery, and as a parent, what does a parent do at a cemetery when they lose a child is they talk to the child. If spiritual, you talk to whomever you're going to talk to, but you end up talking to the child and you end up apologizing to the child. So here I am 7 years out of Jake's passing and still apologizing. And the apology is, as a parent, how did we not see this? Because we were parents that didn't see this. We were wonderful parents. We were very much in their lives, asked a lot of questions, but he was the child that didn't want to share anything. His friends didn't know what was going on. They talked to me afterwards. His hockey coach at the University of Montana was shocked that this happened. Now, there were signs all over the place. There were signs that when he had a big game, and he had one game where he scored 7 goals and he helped a lot of people out, he sat by himself in the locker room. When he came home for Christmas break shortly before he took his life, he couldn't sleep. He was up till 3 a.m. He was wasting time on his phone. And the cell phone for teenagers, as we go there, is the friend and the enemy. It gives every answer from Google and everything you want about wherever they want it to look up. But it also presents highlight reels of everybody else's life, and it makes their walls that much blacker. And I really believe, Keith, that in the world of teen suicide, the walls begin to get black and get darker and darker. I really believe in teen suicide, the walls begin to get black and darker and darker. And at some point, teen asks himself or herself, well, yesterday was really bad. Today was really even worse. I think tomorrow's going to be worse than this. I'd use different words if I was in New York, but that's how they feel. And so it becomes, why bother? Nobody's going to miss me anyway. And they talk themselves right into it. And it's simple to do it nowadays. When we went to his dorm room and we opened up his computer, it opened to a page on how to commit suicide. And number 1 was jump in front of a truck. Number 2 is shoot yourself in the head or the mouth. Number 3 is jump in front of a train. Those are ways to make suicide permanent. There were actually websites accessible to anybody from any age on how to commit suicide, how to take your own life. It's terrible what's going on out there for teens. So we go back to the charity here, and what we do is, for parents like myself, I don't think my son would have reached out at all for help. I don't think he would have gone to a talent showcase. I don't think he would have gone to a band showcase, because I've been asked over the years, is this the reason for the charity to help you deal with your own hole, your own catharticism in there? And I guess in some ways, that's what you do. You start a cancer charity because your loved one died of cancer. It's what we do. And in this case, it's no different. But the impact of losing one's child is dramatic. And we really believed, as we have touched now thousands and thousands and thousands, over 3,000 families here in 6 short years. And I say that because we're giving out resources, and we know that 3,000 families have received our resources, even though last year in 2021, 14,000 people or 14,000 downloads on our resources took place. And last month was 9,000. Let me say that again. Last year, 14,000 occasions, our resources were downloaded. 14,000 resources were downloaded at www.abrighterday.info. And last month it was 9,000. Wow. Now, when you have a charity like this, A Brighter Day, you also have to raise money, because as the phrase goes, money is the mother's milk of all charities. And so next month in June, we do one of our 2 big fundraisers, which is a golf outing, and we're doing it on June 25th. And we've got several celebrities showing up and all the fun accoutrements that happen in the golf world. And it's pretty exciting what we're doing, right? And we'll raise $40,000. Later on in the year, we'll have a gala in November. This year, unfortunately, it's not live. It's virtual still for the 3rd year in a row. It'll be virtual. And we'll raise $50,000 to $100,000. And the rest of the money we make up on donations. Now, we're working our way to become $1 million charity, because we can't be a national charity, which is our goal, unless we're $1 million charity. And we're taking steps to remedy that right now. But first and foremost, we don't lose the vision that our job first is to help parents and teens with stress and depression of their teens with the goal of stopping teen suicide. So Keith, we've been doing this, like I said, now for 6 years. Jake is gone for 7. I know you've talked about on your show the impact of that stress and depression has on family. Jake has left behind 2 siblings, and call these survivors. Interesting phrase. We're all survivors who didn't take our own lives. And they are dealing with it in their way, and siblings deal with it differently than parents because siblings will move on in their life. And I don't know how, if they'll name one of their children Jake, but who knows what they'll do, but they haven't forgotten it. And my daughter has had a lot of recurring nightmares because of, she wishes she had a better relationship with him, but she can't do anything about it now. All she can do is feel bad about it. And her twin brother, Cody, wishes that he saw more because he feels somewhat responsible, that he kind of in his heart knew what was going on, but just as a teenager and a 19-year-old being in college, never could reconcile that. And we don't hold him responsible. And of course not. That would be a silly thing to do. But they have that. And his mom has still gone through all types of problems and help and therapy, including electric therapy, to try to get these negative thoughts, these thoughts of why am I alive and he's not, maybe I shouldn't be either, out of her mind. That's your type of PTSD in there that I know on your show, Keith, you've talked about so many times. So I want to thank you for having me on. Again, it's A Brighter Day, or abrighterday.info. That's 510-206-1103. You can call anytime. We're excited about what we do. We think we're making a difference in the lives of parents and teens. We are approaching parents more and heavily now than we did 6 years ago when we started, because we realized that the parents are the gateway to the teens. So many of our resources now are geared towards the parents to bring it to the teens, with the number one goal of getting the parents to interact more with their children, talk to the children, take away the cell phones at dinner, do all these things to ask great questions. And there are some great questions on our website that we recommend you go to. So I want to thank you very much for having me on. If somebody wants to learn more about what we do, it's at brighterday.info. And we look forward to talking with you again. Have a great day.